Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 47 of the Titanforge podcast. My name is Dratnos, joined by Tettles.
Hello, Dratnos. Glad to be here.
And Trell.
Hello, Dratnos. Glad to be here.
Hello, glad to be here as well. Welcome back, both of you. Did you have a nice weekend? Nice past week, Tettles?
Weekend was long. A lot of the EU Cup matches went to 3-game series, so we had a 12-hour day one day, but I had a pretty good week so far.
Yeah, that was wild. Those it was like the majority of the matches on day one were 3-game series, which I did not expect to see that happen. There were a lot of upsets there. Or not upsets, but like surprising at least 2-1s. Trell, how about you? How's your past week been?
I didn't cast, but I enjoyed watching the same cup. That was a really exciting cup. All the matches seemed pretty well balanced, at least the ones that I saw. Really great stuff.
Yeah, so that's some of what we'll be talking about today is the MDI, what happened, and we'll have some recap. We have some clips of what happened last weekend as well that we'll show you guys. So if you didn't watch it, we have some of the coolest pieces of technology that people discovered and created in this past weekend. And there were a few of them. I was surprised actually by how many new things we saw there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Charles, have you been pushing keys this week at all?
A little bit so far. We'll see. I did a 24 free hold yesterday.
What the hell?
Dragged my undergeared brewmaster through it.
Invite?
I got invited. I'm not really starting groups doing it.
You don't make groups anymore?
Nope.
Yeah, it's making groups is really hard. Much easier to just sit around and be like, anyone need a person?
Sit around AFK and Dazarlor.
Yeah.
Yep, AFK and Dazarlor. That's the sign.
That's the waiting room, dude.
Yep.
You slash sit on the bench and you just sit there and you're like, all right, now I wait.
Yeah. In addition to that, though, we are also going to talk about how to implement MDI strategies into your own dungeon experience. And we're going to talk about the new Halls of Atonement dungeon, which is something that Tettles and I had the opportunity to test on Alpha. And Trell, I understand you now have a little bit of Alpha access yourself.
Not yet, but hopefully soon. I'm on the friends
soon?
family
Okay.
list.
Very cool. So hopefully you'll get in here very soon as well. We also, let's see, there's a new Alpha build today that came out.
Yeah, they changed what the hell?
They changed quite a few little things, yeah.
Did they nerf Starfall?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. They like to save the Starfall nerf until right before the expansion comes out.
Just
to stick the dagger into Tettles. Yeah. And then we also have an interview from Ian about a lot of different stuff. We'll cover the most important bits of it and have a link to it as well. So that's going to have some interesting information about Shadowlands as well. But first, let us thank our supporters over at patreon.com/Titanforge, allowing us to make the show every week. They are Paul of US Proudmoore, King of Skills, VTech XD, Zuko, Ja, Drunk Swede from Legion of Lemmings Argent Dawn EU. I Wish I Was Dratnos' Dino Pillow. Thanks Tettles, Heltari, Ishio, Blue of Emerald Dream, Chromed, Seraphicus, Trekkie, The Marsh Hare, Regulus, Never Nude, Grizzjam, Chewy, A New Belore Trelana, Peleon, who ran out of jokes for his segment, Coke Dog's Gopher, insert Worgen death joke here, Dratnos' main basement captive.
Oh my god.
Raiten of the Guild, and they are on Taran Mill, and they are recruiting Mage and Warlock. And please nerf Starfall. Thank you to most of you for your support. And you can continue to tell us whatever you want us to say for your name there. Tettles, you doing okay?
I'm good, dude.
All right. Okay, so why don't you give us a breakdown of what happened in the EU Cups last weekend in the MDI?
So Method EU won again, but Perplexed looked really good. Beyond that, Deplete from Beyond was surprisingly strong as well, which is the Dr. J team. Perplexed is the old Abracadabra team. I guess those would be good references for people who haven't been watching as closely. Then beyond that, it looked like Self-Reliance. Self-Reliance, the boys, and Deplete from Beyond are all fairly close, I feel like, together, to the point where probably 2 of those 3 are going to get the land spot. I guess it's also been announced.
What about Paying for Femme?
Pain for Femme is also close as well, but Pain for Femme, I feel like whenever they win like high profile matches occasionally, but then we'll just kind of choke out randomly, and I don't know why.
Yeah, they look better against good teams than they do against like less good teams. Like they look excellent against Method EU and Perplexed sometimes. They look like they could win against them, and then they lose to all the other teams in that 3 to 6 range.
It's hard to explain, but I kind of get it. It's like I think they prepare a lot versus the really good teams, and then they're kind of underprepared for the close matches. And so I think their biggest mistakes are always like a little thing in their close match, and then they just fall apart after that.
Yeah, either way, those 4 teams are all within like 30 points of each other for those 4 teams for 2 slots. So next EU weekend is going to be pretty hype. But before we get to that, we've got an NA weekend coming up this weekend, which well, we can take a look actually really quick at the qualifying times for this even.
I think honestly is going to come back for Cup 3. They had a man who didn't want to play at 10 a.m. again, so they stopped.
Interesting. All right, so here's our qualifying teams for this weekend's North American MDI. Method NA, Ethical, Complexity Limit, Goosey Bad, so our same 4 top seeds. Then we got Scripted Content, who I don't think were in last time.
No, they were.
Felinator's team. Felinator, Brock, Moofsy.
Nope. Barack is no longer on that team.
Oh, okay. Who'd they swap him out for?
I don't know. Somebody who I don't know who it is.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it doesn't list him on there.
Yeah, he's listed on the team page still on the radar side.
There it is.
Yeah, Drunk Hunt is who they had.
I don't know who that. Yeah, do either of you guys know who that is?
Nope.
I don't personally actually.
Thalmir and Dismonk as well, which okay, yeah. So this is going to be a fun team to watch there. Made it into the 5th seed, so they're going to play against Goosey Bad first.
Oh, God.
Then we got Big Dumb Gaming, who's going to play against Complexity Limit first. One Last Chance, who are going to play against Ethical.
One Last Chance, who is the 6th seed, but dropped out of last...
Yeah, another Oceanic team as well, so they'll be... Right?
I heard they had some drama with their team. Something about a dox or
there was some like last minute. Some of them decided not to compete last minute.
4 of them decided to lob another one, I think is what happened, but I don't know the specifics.
Tettles, do you have any experience with being on a team where like 4 people are still there and 1 person's gone?
Unfortunately, yes, I do.
Oh no. How does that feel? Not great.
Get a 5th player.
All right, and then we got Fly Me Out in an 8th place there, just barely actually eking out Leal and Anyone Kick, 2 teams that were extremely close to this 8th place spot. With Fly Me Out, that's Ellesmere's team, Ellesmere, Azuna.
I think teams had so many problems with King's Rest, it's kind of wild.
Yes, so here's something that's ridiculous. Like Anyone Kick's time here, they've got a Toldagor that's like 19 minutes. They got an Underout that's 19 minutes. Like you compare that to Fly Me Out, those are a minute faster. But their King's Rest is 32 minutes 26 seconds.
They were going for the live key strat right there.
That's like that's
usually how the leaderboards have looked on like the Sunday of the cycle. But then I looked on Monday a couple days ago and I was like, holy crap! Method NA has like a 17-minute King's Rest at that point, and then the next person had like a 24-minute King's Rest in 2nd place.
Yeah, Method NA looking really strong here. They have the number 1 on all these dungeons, and their total time trial time is more than 5 minutes faster than 2nd place spot here. So this is a really, really big gap in time trials. Although I think Ethical, Complexity Limit, and Goosey Bad could still be competitive here.
So interestingly enough, Ethical, Complexity Limit, and Goosey Bad were also kind of taking I don't want to say taking a break, but they definitely were not practicing as much for this time trial segment as they did for the first one. I wonder if that's going to come back to hurt them, because they all posted all 3 of their times that Monday, before the time trials locked up.
Almost all of these times were put up on Monday, which is wild. That's a level of procrastination that I'm extremely familiar with, but
I mean, and I think that their times reflect that too.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of those times were definitely like 2 or 3 minutes behind their best. You can tell.
Yeah. So we've got Honestly, who didn't compete this time, who hopefully will be back in next time, and I think Anyone Kick and Leal could also be competitive into this top 8 if they go for it in the last cup. But pretty likely that the 4 American qualifying spots are going to go to the top 4 teams of these these top 4 seeded teams, unless something weird happens.
Astonished. Yeah, like I think one of the teams would have to just like break up and not compete the next cup,
Yeah,
and then like
or a team like
maybe
Big
they
Ton,
could lose it.
like BDG or Fly Me Out could, spike a tournament and be in contention for one of those 4 spots as well.
Sure.
Because they played last weekend as well.
It's possible, yeah.
So that's what we're going to watch this weekend in the MDI on the Warcraft YouTube page. Let us return, though, to what new things we have seen from the EU Cup. So we've got 4 clips here of new things, new like polls that have developed. Here is the most wild one, I think. This is a really, really cool one. So this is from Method EU versus Perplexed in Waycrest Manor. And let me see. I guess I'll mute the game sound here.
We were casting this.
All right, fine. I'll just let you guys listen to us casting it. 8 times as much damage as the Prot Warrior, and there's no way the Warrior's ever holding threat. Look at the snap coming out, though, from Method EU. They are snapping onto the fountain here.
Interesting.
And then,
Did they tricks him with the balls?
snap!
No
Look at that,
way, dude.
That's wild. So they
Okay. So for those who don't know, Gingy put Tricks of the Trade right on top of Now. Now gets in that snap spot. Gingy then walks up, tags Soulbound Goliath with that Tricks on him, teleports Now, and all of that trash that was sitting on top of the fountain, and snaps the whole entire pack onto it. Mirrors and Frag blow up that trash pack. Method U is so far ahead now. And look at
That was wild there from Method EU. So they snapped the double snap there. Oops, that's the wrong. That is very much the wrong scene. All right, there's the right scene. Oopsie. Yeah, it's very, 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 very cool.
That's such
snap
a disgusting.
yeah,
it's such a disgusting snap because whenever you put all of the mobs like right on top of that Soulbound Goliath for those DKs, the DKs are able to just instantly kill the whole thing.
Yeah, that is just really, 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 really strong.
Some of the things you don't see there in the clip, a lot of the things that wipe teams on that poll is actually getting to the boss with all the mobs trailing behind, and like sometimes they'll hit players in melee range, not the tank, because you just don't have enough globals to grab threat. And so that helps a lot with that. And I was really impressed to see that. Like Now had to charge in, get all the mobs himself that are in the courtyard. He goes to the fountain, he snaps them, and then the rogue is at the boss, Genji, who tricks his Now, and then everything ports to the boss once he's tricked.
Yeah, that snap was invented by my Keystone Masters team, actually. Not this exact dungeon snap, but the snapping tanks with tricks to bosses. That's called the fact snap. And we did it in the Taltzar to Razan first.
Oh, in this previous case then?
Yeah, and Keystone Masters, that was us.
You're taking a little bit more credit.
I don't know if you invented that.
Dude, we invented it, dude. We invented it. It's called the fact snap. Facts came up with it. His big brain.
Yeah, okay. Maybe the Taltzar one. I'll give him a little bit more credit.
We never did it in Waycrest or anywhere except Razan or any of the new stuff people have been doing with Razan. But I think we came up with it first. I didn't see anybody else doing it before we did.
I've never done it, but I've known about that for a long time.
All right, we are in now to the next new thing, which was, so this is Paint for Femmes strategy in Motherlode. Let's take a look here at their opening poll. I'm gonna mute the casting here so we can just keep talking about it here. So what they did was they grabbed all these peacekeepers and they sent like each member of their team to a different one to like activate them all at once, and then they just ran through and melded, and then the peacekeeper activations finished and got them in global combat and just ran to them, all like 7 peacekeepers all at once, and they were able to fight just 7 peacekeepers all at once.
So
yeah.
So it's important to note that sometimes some of the peacekeepers will not proxy pull, yet some of them will. Most notably, that peacekeeper that's on the front right of the dungeon, like as soon as you walk in, that one that's like the nearest to you, whenever it activates and global combats you, it will proxy pull all the trash that comes to you, whereas the other peacekeepers in that middle pavilion area will not. That's how Paint for Femme was able to do that.
Yeah, this is really good, and they took this match off of Method EU, although their time was quite a bit slower than some future Motherlode times put up by other teams and by Method EU's theoretical best time with their like most aggressive strategy.
So something that's actually kind of important to note that you can actually do, you can like implement this in even a live route with how the peacekeepers will global combat you. You can have like a rogue walk over to some of those jockeys and they can just like pistol shot the jockey and then immediately vanish off the whole rest of the pack. And then the peacekeeper will global combat the rest of the guys that are sitting far away and run over to them. that Peacekeeper won't attack other players, and then you can just have that extra 12 count. Of course, you're not going to get the jockey count. Like, you lose the 4 count from the jockey, but you do get the 12 count from the Peacekeeper. So that is useful for some things, like if you really don't want to pull those laborers because they have low health. Bolstering weeks, I'm sure, could also be fairly good if you want to do just a big Peacekeeper pull.
Yeah,
Stuff like that.
Sometimes there's like a Peacekeeper full area of the dungeon that you're not trying to actually go to, and you can just send a rogue over to Pistol Shot Vanish and get you one of those Peacekeepers.
Yep.
It'll run to you without proxy pulling the other stuff, except for that one at the very start of the dungeon.
Except for the one at the very start. Do not touch that guy.
that one will just proxy everything as it runs to you. I have no idea why it is different, but it do be.
I knew there was one like that. I couldn't remember which one it was.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go test because Mordia in the Titanforge Discord was saying that he's like, I don't know how they did that. I was like, I swear that it just doesn't pull other things. He's like, but wait, I had it happen. And then the first one I try is that near one, and I'm like, wait, it proxied that. I was like, what the hell?
So Method, you lost that Motherload against Paint for Femme. So they come back to the Motherload now, and against Paint for Femme, they'd done this strategy where they pulled the entire VMZ. And we were like, oh, are they gonna try and kite the obelisks here? But then they didn't do it against Paint for Femme. They just did 3 obelisks with boss and took the last obelisk to the boss after clearing the whole trash area. Against Perplexed, we saw them actually do their full strategy, which we'll watch here as they had Zalia grabbing all these things and running and kiting all 4 obelisks in after. In order to set this up, they had to clear 50% of their trash count from the last last quarter of the dungeon. But then Zalia was able to do the Awakened Kite here in the Motherload. And they were able to have enough healing by having all of their hunters playing a Bitband Logic Loop healing combo, which was also wild.
So fucking stupid.
Yeah, very cool.
Actually, I think it's very smart.
Yeah, very, very smart. Now, unfortunately, something went wrong here, and the spider ended up snapping back to the rest of the group, and that ended up causing them to wipe.
No. They wiped the first time because Zalia needed to get in range to heal Mirez.
Right, because the spider snapped back and cast on Mirez.
No. The snapback spider was the second time around. The second time they pulled the boss. Yeah, the first time was Mirez. He reset the boss because he had to heal. But Zalia reset the boss because he had to heal.
Because Mirez was low because he got a spider cast on him, is how I remember it. We will get to see this, though.
We'll see it. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the left-hand side of the screen here of the Method of You versus Perplexed matchup.
So how much quicker do you think this theoretically is?
Well,
yeah, it's hard to say.
I think that something like a 16-minute 30 Motherload is possible with this. Yeah, you can see the Zalia. And, okay, look, yeah, there's no spider here.
I want to say that's bolstering specific.
Right. The spider did snap back.
So I'm not sure why the spider snapped back. I don't know exactly what caused that, but it definitely did. Maybe Zalia got too far away from it or something.
No idea.
It may just be that the tricks wasn't, or like they probably had good tricks on 3 out of 4 of them, and just that one had lower threat. I remember that happened to me a couple times in practice, where just the fear guy or the tank guy would suddenly go to me, and then I'd meld again, and he would just disappear back to the.
Well, I'm surprised that Zalia is not getting a more healing threat than Mirez is able to generate somehow.
Yeah,
just because he is still. Then yeah.
I don't really understand it exactly either, but that caused the boss to reset, and Perplexed ended up winning that with another time that was really fast in Motherload. Perplexed just had a clean run that was really, really quick here, without trying to do that obelisk kite thing. I don't know, what do you guys take on kiting obelisks here in the MDI? Tettles, do you think it's... Okay, Charles, go ahead.
Sorry, good.
Yeah, all you draw.
Oh, well, I think it's good if there's already a space to take the mini bosses away and kite. I think if you have to clear trash intentionally to make that possible, it might not be the play. Although in this specific situation in Motherload, it was bolstering, and so that last area could possibly be a better pull than the first area or the second. And so I think those two combined things made it so that they could do the kite strat in Motherload.
Yeah. What about for like if you were Blizzard, Trell, would you keep it in, or do you think that it's like not something that should be there?
Like, should it be possible?
Yeah. Do you think it should be allowed?
I don't know. I think they probably have this same internal conflict where it's really fun for everyone to watch, but it's also like, why did we invent the suffix if they're just going to completely ignore it? You know.
I think that it's okay. I think the MDI is so wildly different from live that it's like okay to have in.
Yeah, so I definitely like. I would think I would want to remove it if everybody was doing it, but I don't think we've ever seen two teams both kite obelisks in the same match. I think we've literally only ever seen teams disagree about whether or not it was right to kite the obelisks.
Well, I know, yeah. And a lot of times, like even at Freehold this week, it was wrong for the teams to kite obelisks. It was a time lost to kite the obelisk because you're not able to cannonball barrage the middle pack that middle pack on Harlan. Like sometimes it's just like if you're able to pull trash into the boss, very infrequently is it a time save.
Yeah, I think that, like, for me, I think the biggest part about why I would keep it in is because I think that it is actually making like teams do very different routes from each other, and like the question of whether or not the best move is to kite obelisks is open in like every dungeon, basically. Not every dungeon, but in any dungeon where you could kite the obelisk, it's really not clear whether you should.
I mean, it's easy for the MDI to get kind of boring and stale, especially this late into the expansion. So I think anything that they can do that keeps it spicy is definitely an advantage here.
All right, speaking of spicy, we have one final little clip from MDI. This is Perplex versus Method EU, 1-1 in the upper finals here.
This is a sad one.
This is
Perplex is going to win, dude. Perplex is actually going to win this match. It hurts my soul.
We have Divine got like knocked up into the air, heroic leaped, and that has some combination of that caused the spider to snap up there into the middle of the air, and that caused this entire fiasco here for Perplex that ended up resetting the boss.
Hate it.
Hate to see that, yeah.
I mean, especially if you're going against a team like Method EU where there's zero room for error. Occasionally a spider on the wall just resets your boss.
Yeah, this was really brutal. Now, luckily Perplex was able to make it back to the grand finals against Method EU, but I don't know if things would have been different for them if they'd had the upper bracket advantage instead of the lower bracket. This is
they're close though. They're close team wise, which is nice.
Yeah, it is good, and the snap up against the wall thing. I don't know, like it's tough because it feels like I'm sure they had never seen that before, but now I bet they can play around it for future maps, right?
Yep,
it's possible. I bet they've seen it in practice, honestly, as the counter argument, because you have to have such a specific kite pattern in that area to get everything where you want it and avoid the snap spots. I'm sure they may have run into it, and maybe he charged in to get a kick that otherwise was going to kill someone, and it just threw him off and it got him knocked into a bad spot.
Yeah. And the next time we saw them do this, they wiped just au natural to that pull. The next time we saw them in Freehold, because possibly because they were trying to play around that too much.
Okay, I have a question. Do you think MDI should be more like live keys or less like live keys? Because I feel like it's at an in between, like a weird in between right now, where it's not that great because it's too middle.
It's too much in the middle.
It's so hard to say. Like, how do you make an entertaining esport out of MDI and also make it like live keys? Because if you make it more like live keys, the matches are going to be super long, right? And everyone's going to be doing higher keys and be limited to doing smaller. And then the casters like Gyros and Tettles are limited to talking about the same boss mechanic for 4 minutes straight on tyrannical keys.
Yeah, boss fights.
I'm paid to talk, bro. I can talk for as long as you want me to.
Boss fights on even on Tyrannical 19, they go on for quite a while. Like it is I don't know. It's a really hard question. I don't know how. I don't know what I would change about the rules. I think one thing I would maybe look at doing is thinking about implementing the 1 per spec restriction that Keystone Masters had. Although even that I'm a little bit worried about, because I'm a little bit worried we'd see fewer comps total than we do now if that was implemented.
Well, something else that could be interesting is that they could just have a curveball every week, and like they know that they have to field a X class, or they have to.
Yeah, you just ban hunters 1 week.
They have to play this many obelisks with the final boss. Like you could only play 1 obelisk with the final boss, or just like it could be a bunch of different things, right?
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That's true.
That would be kind of interesting. That would be. So in some ways, you could put restrictions that make things look more like live keys, or you could put in like oddball restrictions that you've never seen on live, like
or like double seasonal effects or some bullshit.
Yeah, or you could just like double the enemy forces count required in the dungeon or something.
Oh god.
Some of those things would kind of suck for players, but at the same time would be more interesting for viewers. But
anything
I think the
like
players
that
would adapt.
anything like that would not be popular among the players. Like anything that changed the rules from Cup 1 to Cup 2 is not something the players want, because they want to be able to just practice one thing and not have their practice get thrown out every week.
Well,
on the other hand, it's not just about making the players happy, right?
Yeah. I mean, what about the players learning the affixes day of then, and they have to create an MDT that day?
So again, that the problem with that is that the practice, like Method EU and Method NA will have time to practice just a bolstering route, a sanguine route, for every dungeon, and the other teams will be even more screwed relatively.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is that there are 3 pro teams and 13 amateur teams.
Right, which is it's tough to I mean, I think if you can come up with a good rule set, you shouldn't worry too much about whether or not, like, a good rule set for the viewer experience. You shouldn't worry too much about whether or not it makes the pros even more favored, but because they're gonna win, they're favored either way.
Best team's gonna win. Best team's gonna win anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
But I don't know.
Well, something I liked last season that was talked about in the MDI Discord was maybe just disabling something major that makes the MDI different than live keys, like shadow. Like, I think if they disabled shadow meld, it would force routes to be closer to how they are on live keys. But again, it's like that does cut off some of the population that does have shadow meld on live. But
not really. Like, how many people are playing 5 Night Elf keys on live?
0.
True, very
pretty close to 0. Yeah, like that.
I mean, we don't know any push groups that play 5 Night Elf keys.
Mm-hmm. And like the lower level groups that all play night, like if you're a group that just has 15s, and even if you are 5 Night Elves, or even if you are Alliance, you're not doing like shadow meld skips, right?
Not to that degree.
I mean, like they're technical enough that if you try and execute those, and you're not like we see teams mess up shadow meld, we see Method mess up shadow meld skips in the MDI, right?
Yeah. So all right. Anyways, let's move on. Talk about implementing strat.
All right. Yeah. So let us. This is something that Trell, I think, maybe has the most kind of experience doing, as somebody who has designed paths for both MDI and live key pushing. So the question here is, how do you go about implementing strategies that you see in the MDI into your own live key stuff? Trell, what's kind of, I don't know, where do you want to start here?
Well, Tuttles and I were talking about it before the podcast, and like the last time Tuttles was able to do that was in Legion, and he basically told me that he ran the same routes on live keys for the most part.
By the way, just do the fucking humongous, most big pull in Nelf layer and just run it back. Do the absolute craziest pull in Black or Cold. It's like, yeah, dude, I've already our tank's already practiced this 1,000 times. You just kite it. I promise, it's really easy.
Yeah, it's not like that.
Just like the 10-second setup, and then after that, it was just like AoEing the mobs down, and so that was possible. In this expansion, I don't think it's even close. Like you can't set up a pull in a Tal'Dazar where you pull 35% count in the first pull. I don't think it's possible. And so what you have to do instead of doing that, just copying the whole pull, is you just take one part of it that you like and adapt that to your group on live. Like, let's say the group does a shadow meld skip that was pretty cool and revolutionary. You could maybe create the same thing with a rogue, pulling all the mobs to the side with parry, and then grappling hook away and casting vanish after that to get the whole group through whatever place they were getting.
Yeah, or stuff like the way that the snap spots that teams find for the awakened mobs to move them really quick from point A to point B. That's something you can yoink into your live routes pretty effectively. It's
like I talked about the Peacekeeper. Like whenever I spoke about the Peacekeeper, that can be implemented in live routes really easily.
That's been in live routes before as well. Like pistol shotting one of those. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, that's the fun part, is just being creative with what you can adapt from the humongous MD.
Yeah,
I also bet that like for the Waycrest Manor, I bet there's some strategy where your rogue can like run and like tricks mobs to your tank, and he's already standing on top of the fountain, and he can get the mobs to him. I doubt you're going to be snapping your your tank to Soulbound Goliath. I just don't think that's very reasonable. But doing stuff like that is fairly common. Or pulling Matron to the side and then pulling Soulbound Goliath through. That's useful for something else. Like all of those things are useful in their own way. You just have to be able to look at them and take them piece by piece, and you can't just look at them as like, oh shit, they just pulled 10,000 fucking packs in a row.
Yeah, I do think tricksing mobs to the tank on the fountain is like a pretty good thing to do. That makes the Gorgers handled and everything nicely for you.
Yeah, it's a good point with the maggots too, because that that will instantly get them there before they have their spit queued up, and so it gives you a few more seconds before they start casting.
Yeah. So it's not about like doing the pull that you saw. It's about implementing like little bits of it, right? The whatever, you know, there are like 5 moving parts to a lot of these MDI pulls, but you can take 1 or 2 of them and make good live pulls out of those without needing to have the countless hours of practice and the lower keystone level that the MDI makes it work on.
Or stuff like dwarf racialing off bleeds and stuff like that, like melding off certain mechanics. The Machimba like thing, the Machimba thing that teams are doing, if somehow you have like, you don't need triple trap and a para, but like you can pre-position to be able to click your friendly teammate out of the sarcophagus as quickly as possible to be able to bug out Machimba. There's so many things that you can implement on live routes that teams you just have to know what you're looking for at the end of the day.
Yeah, like the Machimba thing, like that could work in a 27 key, right? Like doing it where all 4 tombs get opened and you CC 3 of the mummies. Like there's no reason that is a 19 only strategy, except for the fact that it's riskier and, you know,
maybe you don't have the CC. Like
if you don't have the CC in your group, yeah, but
yeah, like trap and pair are able to be refreshed before they expire. There's a lot of CC that just can't be, like blind.
Yeah. So it does depend a bit on your comp there, but like if you have access to those, the most MDI boss strategies are things that you can use if you have the right comp for it to speed up the boss fight, but make it more technically difficult to execute, if not more like actually numbers dangerous. All right, let us move on to our tip of the week segment. Trell, why don't you start us off this week? Because I've forgotten to make one yet and must come up with one while you were telling me yours.
I was wondering what you were going to say. This week is Sanguine and Keys. So I was going to talk about how there's a lot of pulls in the game currently where there's one lieutenant mob that cannot be knocked back or moved without following. And there's usually a bunch of little small mobs with it. Like take the matron in the courtyard in Wakehurst Manor, for example. She's surrounded by 3 little dogs that'll drop Sanguine pretty quick. So what you want to do is you can actually fight her right where she is with the whole group, as long as you have some way of knocking the dogs out right before they die for Sanguine. So as a brewmaster, I would just tell the group, hey, I'm going to ring, kill the dogs now. So as soon as the ring goes down, everybody swaps the dogs, they kill them, and then there's no way that the matron gets fully. It's just a good way of dealing with the affix.
Yeah, it definitely is. It works really well with lieutenant mobs, like Trell was saying, just because they can't be CC'd by a lot of random things. Ludwig von Tortolan is like probably my prime example of this. He can't be CC'd by like Ursula's Vortex, Typhoon, Ring of Peace, anything like that. He'll run all the way through it. You drop that right on top of him. You just knock those knuckle dusters, whatever mob you want, away.
Yeah, Motherlode Peacekeepers, very much another spot where you need to do this because those are immune to CC, and they also cast sequence for like 10 seconds in a row. So you really need to make sure that you stop them from having Sanguine dropped under them.
Do you still need one, Dratness? Because I can fill for you if you need one.
I got one. All right, here. My tip of the week is for Mechagon Workshop. So the volatile waste mobs, when they die, when they get to 0% health, they're going to start their cast to explode, the volatile waste cast. If your group fully wipes between when one of those has started its cast and when one of it finishes its cast, it will still die, but you're not going to get count for it. So if that happens, you're going to need to pull an extra enemy from the bridge at the end. Normally, you don't need to get a robot at the bridge, but if you have wiped to a living waste pull, and one of them has exploded after your whole group has died and lost the tag, then you're going to have to actually go and tag one of those robots.
Same with like sighted artillery from spotters and freehold. Same with Ravagers and spotted artilleries from Siege of Borealis. Same with the Ravagers from freehold. I was like, wait a second, hold on.
Yeah,
merge my two things.
Certainly have missed count from all of those things at different times before.
I think everybody's missed count from those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Tuttles, let us investigate your clip of the week
from our friend of the show, Andy Brew.
Yeah, Andy Brew, previous guest of the show. Excellent Brewmaster player. This is a true classic, much like Trell, a great clip from Overseer Corgus.
Only when it's double.
Yeah, that's actually, I would be so mad.
Sure.
So there's never a reason to put Transcendence down in Knight Captain Valerie's. I'm sure he did it as like a play to get a barrel out really fast, and he just forgot that he put his spirit there, because I'm sure like me, he never puts his spirit there. And so it just stayed there for the rest of the dungeon, and then he suddenly ports down to the third boss room from the fourth boss room.
Yeah, he wanted to transcend back to like where he was on the boss fight, but he just transcended down to the third boss room and ended up resetting the boss and bricking their 24 there.
You could tell the moment of realization. He's just like, no.
He just says it's over into the voice comms. Yeah. There's a beautiful clip there. That thing.
The reason that can happen is because Transcendence is literally just like a floor beneath, so he's still in range of the port.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like 40 yards, but it's right there. Yeah.
And it allows him to just go straight through.
Whew, that is brutal, but it is really, really funny. The whole group's just so confused about what happened as well.
Yeah, they probably just saw the boss start running out to the exit
like,
randomly.
They were like, did you get snapped?
Uh-huh.
He's like, no, I'm just an idiot.
Yeah. Really, really tough to see that. All right. Let us move on now to talking about the Halls of Atonement. So this is a new Shadowlands dungeon, which Tettles and I have had the opportunity to test a couple times. Tettles, you played Balance Druid in there. I've played Destruction and Affliction Warlock in there. On the famous Vulpera Warlock. Whoa yeah. Very powerful Vulpera.
Yeah, you're fucking canceled.
So one of the things that's kind of weird about Halls of Atonement, and this is sort of true about Necrotic Wake as well, is that the first half of the dungeon is like all trash, and the second half of the dungeon is all bosses. Tettles, do you have any thoughts about that kind of design for dungeons?
So we've seen it in 2 dungeons already. We saw it in Necrotic Wake and Halls of Atonement. And whenever we were playing it, I asked you guys, like, whatever we were doing, I was like, hey, how do you guys feel about this? And I think Squishy had the best response. He's like, I like this because I like how the dungeon is designed. If every dungeon is like this, though, I'm going to hate it more and more. Like, the more dungeons you see where it's trash only for the first 75% of the dungeon, and then it's boss, that's going to feel like shit. But Halls of Atonement is like a good variant of it. Motherlode had something similar where you do most of your trash in the first half, and then you just do bosses straight all the way through. That doesn't feel good, but that doesn't feel good because you have to fight through a bunch of trash. Whereas Halls of Atonement, you don't have to fight through a bunch of trash. You just go straight to bosses.
Yeah, the last 3 bosses are literally like one boss, one trash pull, one boss, one trash pull, one boss.
Yeah.
And the first part of the dungeon is a huge wide open courtyard where you have to kill a bunch of trash pulls to spawn the first boss. It does. I don't actually mind it either. Yeah, I agree that like they shouldn't do this in every dungeon, but I'm glad that there is that open style courtyard. I feel like it's going to be fun figuring out what to do there. And
the courtyard. Okay, so the courtyard is really good because you're able to path around in like very specific ways and get a bunch of different trash count. Like behind the first boss, there's also this huge open area with just a boatload of trash that you can get to. Or if you get all of your trash in like the first little half area, you can just shroud all the way by and get to the second boss and miss all of that trash that's behind the first boss. I don't mind activating the first boss with those anima pillars either.
Yeah, so you have to kill 3 specific mini bosses to activate the first boss. So there's you have to go to all 3 of those required places to get it done. But you do have some choices about what other trash to kill along the way.
Something that I noticed that I think I would like changed a little bit is that there was a bunch of invisible walls on a bunch of the ledges. I think they want to avoid like snapping or people like jumping off and like messing up mobs. I think that they should just like open up like little gated areas to allow groups to be able to jump off so that the trash can patrol to them, like and patrol around. And if you jump off, you should just have to pay the consequence of all the like of those mobs that you're in combat with, just pulling everything else. Yeah,
it does feel a little bit arbitrary that there's just a bunch of little like 2-foot high fences that are full invisible walls that block you, and you don't have line of sight through.
Huh. Interesting.
But
you guys found any evade spots or snap spots?
There's some evading mobs. I found a cool gateway that takes you into a closed off area.
A really bad spot that you don't want to be in.
Into an area that just doesn't let you can't get out of. That is really unfortunate. So Tettles had to get on a 2-seater mount that I could barely click on to get out of that place.
Excellent.
But yeah, I mean, the kind of architecture and evades and stuff like that, that's something that I assume could keep getting worked on. And we have talked about this a little bit in the past where like, you know, one common problem with dungeons is that they make all the terrain like exactly hitboxed to the art models, and then that creates snap spots. So this might be a response to that, right? Like if it's just full, 2D invisible walls everywhere, there's going to be less of those snap spots than if they fully model all the fences to look exactly like they do and have the exact same collision, right?
I'm a huge fan of that. If that's
I don't
the
hate
case.
it. Yeah, it's a well designed dungeon.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun in this dungeon actually as well. The boss fights were pretty cool too. So first boss had this like laser beam that just randomly multiple times throughout the fight will change directions on you.
Think Trilliax.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. The second boss had these like ads that you had to not kill all at once because they AoE when they die. And you then have to jump on them with like a person gets a slow on them and then the boss jumps on them. And you got to have that hit all the enemies when they're dead. Otherwise they'll regenerate like Gorektal.
Okay.
Third boss had
the boos, like the
Yeah.
Mario boo style ads where you look at them and they stop, but they were kind of broken. I don't really know.
I don't even know if you're supposed to be able to look at them to break them anymore, because it seems like you just kind of kite them onto these lanterns and they disappeared.
Well, it's part of the dungeon journal to say that you're supposed to look at them. Like,
they definitely
if not,
didn't function that way.
If not, then that boss is going to have a pretty hard enrage, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. There were these spirits that would like chase you and you could kite them over a lantern to kill them forever, and there were just 4 lanterns in the boss area. But it does say in the dungeon journal you could look at the spirits as well to stop them from moving. I don't know, maybe it'll have like a phase thing where when you hit one with a lantern it kills all of them, but it does some AoE or something like Soulbound Goliath. And you gotta use your 4 different times depending on how high the key level is. That could be kind of cool. And then the last boss fight had these like statues that he kind of telekinesis throws at you. And you also sometimes have to like intercept. He'll like try and charge up a statue and you have to intercept that charging up, but it does damage to you. That one could be pretty cool, especially if there's enough damage that you have to like cycle in and out people, or if there's like a stacking damage increase on the Mythic.
It's a good variant of Galvast.
Yeah, it's pretty reminiscent of that.
Yeah. Then they changed Necrotic Wake. I guess have we said everything that we want to about Halls of Atonement? Is there anything else you want to say about it?
It works for me. Yeah, there was, I guess.
I gave it a B. What would you give it?
Yeah, I could see this being an all-time great dungeon even as well, potentially.
I said it's worse than Freehold, but I'm pretty sure it's a solid dungeon overall.
I would compare it to Freehold with how open that first area is. Although it does have a little bit less of the full openness that Freehold has going on.
Yeah, I give it a B. I said it's slightly worse than Freehold, but better than every other BFA dungeon.
I'd say it has potential to land anywhere from the C to A range.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so then they changed a little bit about Necrotic Wake. So one of our major criticisms about Necrotic Wake is that the mages had that Frostbolt volley cast, and that kick was just fucking awful. They changed that. They cast Frostbolt now, and Frostbolt volley far less frequently. That's a really good change. The Fear guy that we talked about, how you can't actually run out of his circle in time, which was weird. He got changed to a melee kick rotation instead of a 10-second kick order.
That's good. 10-second cast cooldowns on mobs is so stupid. That's that's wild.
Yes, correct. That is absolutely true. They also removed a pack of trash. You had a double Fear guy pack with a bunch of the mages, and it was like, what the hell is this pack?
That one got moved to teaming. Yeah,
got moved to
Probably.
Shut up, Trent knows.
And then there are these really cool objects as well on the ground in there, right, Tuttles? So there's like a spear and
So let's say that there are like somewhere between 5 and 10 objects on the ground. So there's like a finite amount of them. So think spark bots, but they are on use. And they're one-time use. And there's, I don't know, like 5 to 10 of them. And they do different things. Like one of them is a big AoE healing, one of them is AoE stun, one of them is AoE silence, and one of them is just a fuck ton of damage. So like there's like you throw this javelin, it just
it's like a 16-second bleed with a damage taken increase to everything that it hits, and it's like a line. Yeah, it pierces everything towards its target and hits them all with that. Yeah. These are really strong, but they are one-time use and like pretty skill intensive to use them. I think this is awesome. This is going to be really cool to like figure out where you're supposed to use these things.
I think it's a solid take on the Sparkbot / Toldagor canon dynamic, where it's like there can be or like dungeon flavor objects that are like RP elements to the dungeon that can scale with Keystone level, but they shouldn't polarize your dungeon. And I don't think that those do that because
these might like there's a good there's a chance that you'll just like pull the whole dungeon and use 4 objects on them and kill that, right?
I was gonna say it sounds like an MDI pull.
But
AoE stun, AoE silence, massive damage increase.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. We'll say it's dope. I like this.
it was fun when we were doing it. I don't know what it's gonna scale into.
Well, there's okay. Let's be real, Trell. They're so spread out that it's very hard to get multiple at a time. There's like 3 in the starting area, and then there's like 3 for the rest of the dungeon, and they're like far away. So maybe you could get like 1 per person and then like hold on to it. But I don't know if I would really want to hold on to it because I bet if you die, you lose it.
Well, you just send a rogue ahead to go grab one, and then you pick up 3 in the starting area, and then you pull the whole dungeon.
You probably line of sight it somewhere. I could see that.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That'll be
have to
fun.
see.
I want to give me alpha, please.
All right. Let us advance to the Ian Hazakostas interview. So I'll put a link to this in chat. Here it is, the Wowhead live blog of it from twitch.tv/Zoltan, who's a French WoW streamer who did this interview. We can take a look at some of the stuff now. So I guess big ticket news. Still planned for a 2020 release. That's cool. There's been some speculation that this, there's been some, I guess, questioning about whether or not this 2020 is still realistic with all the global situation and everything. But glad to see that it's not, because I want to play Shadowlands. The Covenant stuff. Okay, here's some big news. So leaving a Covenant will not be too difficult. Rejoining a Covenant once you have abandoned them will be difficult. Azerite Armor taught them some lessons about how hardcore players will continue to pay an increasing cost, even though it was intended to ward them off at some point. To me, this is the most worrying sentence about the entire interview, because to me, the Azerite Armor is not a case of they failed to make a punishing enough cost. It's a case of they failed to understand that the system was more fun without a cost. And I'm worried that that's going to be how Covenants are going to be as well here.
Yeah, that is pretty worrying. I hope it's not worse than changing your Azerite pieces.
Well said, Dratnos.
To me, what I'm reading here is that it's going to be really hard to switch Covenants, except for your first time switching to a given Covenant.
I spent 123,000 gold once on reforging Azerite. So this whole system is some big bullshit. I am not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wanted to play both Assassination and Subtlety in Season 1 of BFA.
Okay, so I play a Druid. I don't play multiple specs of Druid, but there are a lot of people who play multiple specs of Druid. What if I wanted to tank, heal, and DPS as a Druid?
Yeah, I hope you have 2 million gold titles.
I don't think it's going to be gold. I think it's going to be like a quest line.
We'll see. Yeah, they've learned the lessons about the increasing gold cost, so we'll see what they've got coming up for us this time. But yeah. I'm just, especially the multi-spec thing is something that I don't know if I'm gonna play all off specs in this expansion. Like, I don't know if I have it in me to just be suboptimal on a spec.
I mean, I have it in me to be suboptimal. Like, I have it in me to be suboptimal on like an off spec. Dude, like, if I have to make major deterministic choices between like Mythic Plus and Raid, and one is okay, so there's a major problem about the delta of AoE to single target DPS, because single target DPS, the variance is about 10%. The AoE damage variance is like 100%. Like the damage differential between like a Moonkin and a fucking DPS Demon Hunter or a Fire Mage on AoE, whenever they're AoEing, both of those classes is just astronomically different, and they're not within 10%. And it's like,
right. Well, it's and you have these traits on your Azerite Armor, right? Where it's like, do you pick the one that's like a pretty good single target trait, or do you take the keep your wits about you, really powerful AoE trait? And at least in BFA we can switch between those. Admittedly, with the awful reforge system, but we can do it a little bit. It seems like in Shadowlands you're gonna have to just kind of choose, like, do you want that 5% more single target or that 50% more AoE, more Mythic Plus utility thing? And like, you're gonna have to pick that for your character, and missing out on either 5% single target for raid or 50% of your class's Mythic Plus potential. is going to be really damaging to your ability to do whichever you didn't pick. So that's something
So far, it's looking like 3 monks for Shadowlands. We'll see though. Hopefully they make some adjustments.
I don't think I'm going to play multiple of one class. I think I'm just going to complain on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just raid log, I guess. I don't know, like raid log or make 2 characters, I guess. I don't know what I'll do, but I hope that I don't have to find out.
Well, I mean, part of the problem too is that like WoW is ultimately our job, and we want to do other things outside of the game beyond just one aspect. We don't just want to raid. We don't just want to do Mythic Plus. We don't just want to PvP. We want to do all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want to do just like other random things, right?
But even for people who WoW isn't their job, they want to be able to raid effectively and Mythic Plus effectively, right?
Yeah. I mean, people get up in arms about very minor damage increases a lot of the time, but I worry that this is not going to be that.
Yeah,
I worry that this is going to be like a major power creep problem.
Like there are core abilities here, very fundamentally powerful things that are like Mythic Plus useful, like stuff like a huge huge cooldown that'll heal your whole group for 50% of their health, or binding shot. These types of effects are extremely strong in Mythic Plus. That I'm not. If you pick the single target increase over those, you're gonna feel it.
So somebody in chat said that they're already going to scrap it if they can't make it work. They will not know that until after the first tier is the problem. And it's like all of if everybody in your player base is saying that this is probably going to be an issue and they don't believe it's an issue, I wonder if there's something that we're as a player base missing. Also,
Blizzard has not had a history of quickly changing the systems that if they had fixed legendaries in 7.0, if they'd fixed Azurite armor in 8.0, if they'd fixed essences in 8.2 instead of waiting months or years to fix all of those things, I'd be willing to be like, all right, let's just see how this plays out.
They fixed Azurite quickly.
They fixed it in 8.1, but they fixed the worst of it in 8.0, I guess. But still, it was not like
they gave you the TR vendor and then they fixed the Reforged coffin.
That took a while though to come out. Still,
I mean, it sucks. Yeah, I agree.
Like they're saying here that they will do this if it becomes apparent that it's an issue. But what I'm saying is I kind of need some evidence that there's not going to be an issue before I'm willing to just be like, all right, well, let's try it. I mean, I hope that they will change it, but it seems like it's such a core part of their vision for this expansion that
I'm willing to give them benefit of the doubt because they make so many good things too. That I hope that this is very sick, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially to creatively try something. They need to make it work though.
I just don't understand what the talent tree is supposed to be for. Like, what is the purpose of the talent tree? Do you think, Tettles? What should be on the talent tree?
Well, I actually think the talent tree should be only things that modify your base kit. Like personally, I think your base kit should be like every spell and ability you're ever going to use, and then the talent tree is just modifiers of that.
To me, the talent tree should be like choices between interesting situational stuff, right? Like powerful and situational abilities that you choose that are an impactful choice to make on your talent tree. That's what I think the talent tree should be. And it seems like the talent tree has basically been cookie cutter. You pick some stuff and there's not really much actual gameplay to your talent tree. It seems to me like in Shadowlands, they have created a huge set of really interesting situational abilities that is what the talent tree should be. And instead, you're gonna have to go into Shadowlands and effectively pick like all left talents, all middle talents, or all right talents when you make your character, and you don't get to actually switch between them.
The thing is that you have to like actually make decisions that matter before you do that content too. Like so in Mythic Plus, you don't swap like talents or essences or covenants between pack to pack. You have to pick before you go into the dungeon.
I'm fine with locking in your covenants abilities for the dungeon, just not for the expansion.
Yeah, that would be good.
I agree. I think we're on the same point there.
Do you know if those talents for each covenant are going to be damage, or are they going to be like purely for? I'm thinking of like the research tree on the boat. This expansion, for like faster.
So the soulbinds,
mount speed after flying.
The soulbinds look like they're going to be damage stuff and they're going to be strong. But I think that within the covenant, you're going to be able to change your soulbinds.
There's also going to be legendaries too.
Yeah, and the legendaries are going to interact with your covenant choice.
And they talk about legendaries in that article.
Yeah. I guess we can take a look at that. So One thing is that there's like really big transmog sets that each part is a legendary, and so in order to get the whole transmog set, you're gonna have to make a legendary in each of those slots, which is pretty cool.
Imagine transmogging, lol.
Yeah, that's true. I have most of my characters are not transmogged right now.
Same.
Yeah.
All three of us are like that.
I'm just
All
a
right.
degenerate, and I just don't care. I mean, fucking Moon can play, man. It's like, all right, yeah, I'm not gonna transmog.
So once every 2 to 3 weeks is kind of the current thought for how often you're going to get each legendary, and you'll only be able to equip one at a time. But unlike in Legion, it doesn't drop randomly. Yeah, you choose what slot and what effect your legendary is going to have. Very
That's
cool
good.
there. Love to see that. Yeah.
That is a good change.
Okay, what else is on here that you think we
Mythic
should
Plus
mention?
affixes. Mythic Plus affixes.
All right, let's go find that affix. New Mythic Plus affixes. They plan on continuing seasonal affixes, yet to design it. They have yet to design the new seasonal affixes, but they want to. They may redesign 1 or 2 of the affixes if they come up with something good, and they will retune some of them as well. Mythic Plus is one of the last things they do because they want to understand the dungeons before layering more things on top of it.
I like what they said.
Yeah, that's reasonable to me. I'd like to see more than just some 0 to 2 reworks and retuning some of them. Like I'd like to see some bigger readjustments to how some of these things work. Like I think that the Quake, like a change on the style of what they did to Quaking is needed for affixes like Explosive, Bolstering, Grievous.
I want them to get Mythic Plus on the alpha as quickly as possible so we can accurately test it and give a lot of feedback. Because I've been giving them a significant amount of feedback about their dungeon so far, just like on their forums, because they're actively reading those forums for alpha because they, like really early on, they can still make changes. So the quicker that they get them onto the alpha, the quicker that we can test like how the systems end up working, how they feel. I like the continuation of seasonal fixes though. I think originally I was not super hot on it, but the longer it goes, the more I'm like, you know what? This is probably for the better, and it does keep things less stale. Because part of the reason that Legion Mythic Plus went so well for so long is because it was so new. And the longer it goes, the less new it becomes and the more stale it gets. So seasonal fixes are a good way to keep it not that.
Yeah, I think the seasonal affix done well is really good, but they have to be careful to not do more infesteds and beguilings. I mean,
they hit us for every infested and beguiling, you get a reaping and awaken. So,
I don't know. I feel like beguiling for a lot of players just turn them off of Mythic Plus for 6 months because it was just always active every week.
I mean, infested killed it for me more than in beguiling.
Yeah, sure,
maybe.
I'm giving more benefit of the doubt on infested because that was their first go at it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
But beguiling, didn't learn
I
the lesson of
infested.
infested.
Unpopular opinion, but I did.
Yeah, okay. You liked infested because it was your first season doing well in Mythic Plus. You can't.
Yeah, there's always.
Yeah, you liked Legion Mythic Plus because it was your first season doing well.
Yeah. Oh, you say it.
Although I did too, to be fair.
That's what I'm saying. I think BFA done like there are some good Legion dungeons. There's some bullshit that I hated in Legion. I hated getting one shot. Never.
Dude, I'm hyped about getting the legendary transmog sets. That's gonna be cool. This plate set, so cool.
Yeah, the transmog looks really good.
Yeah,
so far.
that's gonna be a really fun thing to work towards actually with legendaries. All right, let's move on to our question and answer segment. So I guess our first question here comes from Paul. Let's put this up on screen. All right, what is the significance of changing covenants but difficult to switch back? Seems like changing in response to a nerf might be the play for many, and THD levels of degen for the tippy top, but I'm unsure as evaluating systems is usually hard. So for me, I think that the good news here from that is that, like, yeah, if you're somebody who wants to pick one covenant and then your covenant gets nerfed, the fact that it looks like it's going to be pretty easy to switch for the first time to a new covenant, that's probably good news for you. But if you're somebody who wants to do, like, multiple specs that have different BIS covenants, or multiple different types of content that have different BIS covenants, it's still not something you're going to be able to reliably do multiple of those things on the same character.
Yeah. Imagine you're a pure DPS and you don't just identify with one spec, you identify with the whole class. So say you're a Warlock and you want to play Affliction for some things, you want to play Destro for some things. Being able to reliably switch between those two because they do very different things is going to be hard. So there are some things that are like spec specific, like for Druid specifically, there are spec specific interactions, and then there are class-specific interactions, and it kind of depends on which covenant you pick. For one, the class-specific interaction or the spec-specific interaction may be way better for one than the other, so you don't really want that. But then for the other one, it's like, this is like a really good generic one.
Yeah, that's definitely something that like the mage covenant ability, one of them is like something that empowers your arcane blast, frostbolt, and fireball. And like those 3 abilities for arcane, that's likely to be pretty sick. But for frost and fire, you might choose one of the other covenants might be really good.
And that was my point. Yeah, there you go. You gave a really good example of what I was talking about. And it's like, okay, so you don't closely identify with Arcane, but Arcane is the best spec to play. You want that covenant because it is so overwhelmingly strong for Arcane. And then it's like, I want to play Frost and Mythic Plus because Frost is the Mythic Plus spec. And it's like, Frost doesn't want that. What the hell? They don't want 6,000 Frost bolts.
Yeah, and there's like, some AoE ability for one of the specs, and or for one of the covenants, and you're just like, ooh, yikes.
Well, Raid is also primarily single target, where Mythic Plus is primarily AoE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's that tough. There's the dichotomy between like single target AoE. Each different spec might have a different good covenant, and then PvP versus PvE. All of those things might or might not. You might get lucky. You might just be playing a class that has one clear best covenant for all the kinds of content you want to do. And that is going to be a class that I will be heavily tempted to play next expansion to avoid all this.
Please Moonkit.
All right. Next question comes from Terracent in Discord. After Ian's interview today, what are your thoughts on the covenant swapping system being similar to swapping from Aldor to Scryers in Burning Crusade? Basically, you turn in an item for rep that's farmable in the world to turn your rep from one to the other. Maybe not as dramatically difficult as Aldor Scryer was at the time, but still not an ever-increasing gold fee. Yeah, so that was something that it took like a day of farming those materials or something, I think, to swap from Aldor to Scryer.
Well, you can also buy the materials off the auction house too,
or a bunch of gold from the AH, yeah.
Hey, Drynos, after raid, you want to come do this high Mythic Plus key? Sure, Joe. Give me 24 hours to get the materials to change my covenant.
Yeah, let me go farming.
All right, invite Tettles Jr., the other Moonkin. He's got the great covenant.
Yeah. Oh, man. I guess my thoughts are, if the price is, I don't know of a price that will be high enough to make it feel like a permanent choice, but not low enough to be awful. Like, I don't know if there's a middle ground there that lets them preserve that permanent choice feeling without me feeling really bad. So yeah,
Agreed.
I don't know what that price could be, but if they can come up with one that does both those things, I'm all about it. Yeah, that sounds great. All right, Cat Gay from Discord asks, how does the Razan snap exactly work? And what kind of enemies can you snap with Razan? Trident and left side doesn't really snap. They snap the threat target back to them. I know what's happened here. That very first pack on the left doesn't snap to you. It snaps you to it.
Yeah, it's because of the honor guards in that pack. Just the just the 3-pack at the very start. Everything else will snap to the tank.
Almost every other piece of trash in Nataldazar you can will snap to you, but that one pack will snap you to it. So you can't. That's why Angry Toast, when they first did that snap, they didn't snap that pack. They snuck in and snapped only the back stuff in that left area.
Trell and I were memeing about this earlier. What if your rogue tricks and hits the honor guard and snaps the tank to you, and you do like an undead plus living side combo snap as opposed to snapping to Razan?
That sounds pretty cool. That actually sounds good.
It might be possible if you have the AoE stuns, because you got to make sure that the shields don't go up during the Bonsambi's mantle cast. So usually the play is you AoE stun like 6 or 7 seconds into the pull, and it catches like 4 fiery enchant casts, so they all get interrupted. And if you snap the skeletons before that, and it also lines up with their shields, I think that would be really, really good.
Yeah, maybe the tank can get in combat with the tank can get in combat for like 15 seconds so that they already do a shield, and then you can snap the tank. Something.
Yeah, maybe.
The other thing was casting.
There's only a couple of mobs in a towel that don't snap to the tank like that. It's the 2 honor guards there at the front, and then also the 2 sky screamers that are sitting on top of the.
Oh yeah, the ones
that jump down to you. Yeah, in the middle pack area. Yeah.
Those won't snap either. You got to be careful pulling those somewhere. All
right, Cardinarch has a question, mostly for Trell. With the recent changes to Prot Warrior, taking all their damage trait or talents and putting them in the same row. How do you feel about the class going into Shadowlands so far without your bias to Brewmaster? Thanks, smiley face.
The tone you said that in. Well, Pro Warrior looks like it's completely gutted. It's actually, it does not look good right now. I think it's going to have to go through some changes before we see it as a meta class again, or just balance it up to the other 5 tanks.
Yeah, so they moved almost all of the kind of Thunderclap build onto the same row of the talent tree, which means that you can't play all of them anymore. That is, I mean, like the spec could still be good, but it'll be different, right? Whatever the playstyle is, it's probably not going to be that Thunderclap playstyle anymore.
I actually have insight into this. So they don't want classes to have builds, like structured builds. They want you to actually be making decisions based on that row. They don't want you to be picking straight down the line to have a like a straight up build. But yeah. I don't know.
Well, the other thing is, like all those things were what made the uptime of Shield Block and Last Stand so high. It's just like all those things in combination. Into the Fray, Bolster. What are the other talent names?
So it's like Booming Voice, Unstoppable Force. Yeah, Booming Voice, Unstoppable Force, Into the Fray, all on the same row, and then. That I think that's the main row where they put everything onto the same row. Oh, and then the bolster is actually the same, I think.
It's just that synergies become too strong if you're not careful. Should they be removed? Do you want to be like shoehorned into one build the whole expansion because that build is just overwhelmingly strong because the synergies between the whole entire rows are just too good? There's like a lot to really think about. Is it better to have builds or is it better to have independent talent rows? I guess that's not really a question for me. I actually don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. But the other thing was they also nerfed anger management to not affect Avatar and
Last Stand.
It's demo, right? Oh, it's okay.
Or demo shot. I think it was demo shot and Avatar. Those are actually that's a huge nerf for Pro Warrior. Like that just
it still affects so much Avatar and Shield Wall, but it's like not Last Stand and demo shot anymore.
Okay, yeah.
It's bad that it doesn't affect Last Stand. The Last Stand was OP.
Yeah. I imagine heavy repercussions is going to be the thing now, but I'm not sure.
We'll see. So, yeah. Pro Warrior getting gutted? Is that a yes?
It's definitely getting changed dramatically
for now.
And it would be a nerf if they put these talents into the live game. But 10 different things are changing about every spec. You can't look at just one thing going in a certain direction and say that like the spec is getting nerfed overall. They could just, if they just increase how much armor the spec has or reduce the amount of armor the spec has and change a bunch of talents in one way or the other, those two changes could easily offset. Like we've seen with Death Knight, right? Death Knight in BFA, a lot of different things changed about Death Knight, but what killed it was an armor nerf, and that's what
it's just like one too many nerfs.
Yeah.
I think that could be the case for Pro Warrior right now, but again, it's hard to say, like Darno said.
Definitely the talents, the Thunderclap build is looking different. It looks like that's not something you can do anymore.
Right.
All right, next question comes from Mac Drago, who asks, what could be a reasonable fix to Tyrannical, aside from deleting it, which preempts, I believe, Tettles' answer to that question. I think that, so my take on what you could do with Tyrannical is you could make like each boss have a extra ability, and that ability is just on Tyrannical weeks and off on other weeks. So it's like an empowered, bosses have like an empowered, more difficult fight that is active on one week versus the other weeks.
I think you just make bosses that don't phase anymore.
Yeah, you could do that. You could just make bosses that don't, because like the thing with Tyrannical is that 40% more health is more than 40% more time if it adds more like Kragmaw tantrums.
You just don't add phasing bosses. Like that's
just have a fixed number of phases.
Yeah, exactly.
For like the repeating phase boss.
Like percentage.
Like, percent base push, yeah.
Yeah, percent base
like
push.
Kragmaw, Kragmaw tantrums at 66 and 33%, or the second boss in Siege jumps away twice total. Same thing.
Yeah, well, okay.
It
shouldn't be just time based. I think is part of the problem, right? It's that
percent based. Yeah. Okay. Do you guys think that the movement towards melee being AoE capped will change MDI meta to be more caster focused? It's a shame to see them so underrepresented apart from Fire Mage, and that one comes from Noomsy.
I don't know. I think it's going to be so different when all this goes live for MDI, because MDI is based around pulling the maximum number of targets that you possibly can to survive.
I mean, Squishy was talking about this with Dratnus and I, or maybe it was just with me, and he was like, dude, I'm pretty sure the meta for classes next expansion is just you just bring as many untarget capped classes as possible. You just bring Sin Rogue, Unholy Death Knight.
Unholy's got an 8 cap, I think.
No, Unholy doesn't have a cap at all.
Isn't Bursting Swords getting capped? Fairly sure.
I thought it got capped at 8 or something.
Yeah, Bursting Swords to 8. I'm pretty sure it's happening.
Targets.
Yeah. Which is still...
By the way, I think the point's right, where whatever class can make do with traits or whatever from their items that does uncapped AoE, that's the class that's going to...
Yeah, I think that's what the MDI is always just whatever the best big AoE is for the big AoE dungeons, and then, you know, the BM hunters for the other stuff and whatever. So that'll be just the overall damage class for that case.
I think it's cool how MDI has the most diversity we've seen in a while.
Yeah, me too.
DPS-wise.
I think current MDI is very good on that side.
Hunters for bolstering Workshop and KR. Death Knights for big damn. Rogues for like weird ass niche utility. Demon Hunters to empower your Death Knights.
Demon Hunters burst AoE as well. Burst cleave.
And Ellie Shaman's on the bench.
For Junkyard.
Yeah, DH for Junkyard owns there, absolutely. Okay, next question comes from Dragona. Why do you guys think extra high live key pushers like Andy do not find themselves in tournaments, even though they're obviously good enough for it? Is there any way to change that? Yeah, the live keys.
Okay, so motivation is probably the biggest piece. He's just not motivated to play the MDI. Secondly, he can't stream. Like, a primary source of income for a lot of the players of the MDI is streaming, right? Or at least, or they have like a second job and they can't be as competitive as they would otherwise want to be. I mean, with Andy's case, he wouldn't be able to stream, like, so he wouldn't be making any money. So that would be in a rough spot as well. And then, I mean, some people just don't find speed racing or speed running dungeons fun.
I think
a lot of it's
also
multi-classing too.
Yeah, the multi-classing is a hugely valued thing in MDI. The ability to like play race for world first level hours for, you know, the practice period of the MDI also
finding
seems to be really valuable.
Players who are equally motivated as you and get along with you for 60 hours a week. Like, what the fuck?
I think there's also some strong evidence that like you can be really good at this without having to actually have been a live key pusher. Like, I don't know, the complexity limit players, most of them never did live key pushing, and they're you know, blasting a lot of teams that did do really high key pushing together quite a bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're just two different worlds.
Challenge mode players are the best MDI players, like bar none. Like, look at all the European MDI teams. Those are all challenge mode guys. Those guys are freaks.
I mean, MDI tournament realm is kind of similar to challenge mode, right? Because you were scaled down back then.
Yep.
So it's kind of even playing field that way. And it was pretty much like it stuff didn't scale health and damage like live keys do. It was just you kept trying to get a faster and faster time while you were scaled down. Yeah, very very much more similar thing.
It's true.
It's like Zalia and Miraz were both like, I think they had some of the fastest times in the world for CMs. I think that's where their background is like CM times. The 40K team, like Lizelle and Lofus, I think were both big CM guys as well. Like, I think that a bunch of those top key pushers, especially in Europe, were CM boys. Oh, Genji was as well. Okay, apparently. I don't know the lore on all the people. I know the lore on some of the people.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see what would happen if you took like the top MDI teams that don't push high keys and like incentivize them to try that for like if you put a cash prize behind that. You saw how well they could actually perform at that. I think that would be cool to see. I wonder if it would be if they like. I wonder what live keys would look like if there was that level of competition for it as there is for the MDI.
Be dope.
Yeah. All right. I think that is all of our questions here. Unless there's any more that you guys have seen.
I didn't say anything. I think I enjoyed doing this extra long QA session today.
Yeah, this is cool. This is a lot of good questions. Thanks, everybody. If anybody has any questions for future shows ever, Twitch chat, Discord, and the tweet that we make weekly are the main sources of those for us.
Yep.
So we took questions from all those sources today, and we will continue to do that going forward, unless we do a super long episode, and then we might cut the question and answer segment. But that is going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next week, same time. And then the week after that, same time as well. And then the week after that, we'll probably be going back to our regular Saturday schedule probably. But we'll let you know with Twitter and everything. So yeah. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Till next time.